Welcome back. You're watching Political Exchange. I'm continuing my discussion, of course, with Bongani Maseko. He's the CEO of the AIPRORT company in South Africa. Bongani, earlier on we spoke about your expansion plans into the continent, of course, having learned lessons from both Brazil and India. What is the plans, the immediate plans of AXA? When I spoke with you last on the sidelines of the BRICS conference, you were in discussions with the government of Benin.
I think we are in discussions with several countries. What we are finding to be a challenge is we obviously have the airport expertise, so the technical expertise and know-how, we are confident of that as AXA. We are in discussions with the development finance institutions such as the DBSA and the IDC to offer a holistic solution, a South African solution, if you will, because invariably, some of the countries that we've been in touch with have difficulties raising debt. And so we hope to offer a complete solution to them. And that has really been the challenge, I think.
When you talk about complete solution, are you suggesting that you would craft a package of services which include development finance as something that you can take to these governments? Am I understanding you correctly?
Well, we are in discussions with the development finance institutions such that when an opportunity presents itself, we're able to offer we don't just offer a technical solution and then they have to go and run off and find funding. We were talking to them as obviously as and when the opportunities avail themselves and depending on the bankability of each opportunity. And so in that regard, we would like to offer a holistic solution. There are also technical and construction companies that we work with that we believe can further help us offer a complete solution. And so that's really what we're targeting. And this is largely driven by not only our responsibilities in trying to ensure that we improve on the aviation infrastructure on the continent, but also we have recently learned that from the World Economic Forum that 7 of the fastest growing countries are in sub-Saharan Africa. Yes, albeit of a small base, but airports are long-term investments.
The growth potential is definitely here.
The growth potential is definitely here. And the more we are able to offer those solutions, I think the better we are going to be as a continent. Currently, you sometimes have to fly to Europe to fly to a country next door in some African countries. And that's just because the connectivity, whether it be by road or rail or by air, is poor. And we hope that the improvement of an air solution will provide for better connectivity between African cities.
Now, before the break, you were saying that the ministers reminded AXA, of course, that it's not just aviation, but we need to talk about transport in its totality. Is that the kind of approach that you'll be taking to the continent, given the fact that many of the infrastructure needs on the African continent relates to rail rather than air traffic? Well,
what we are saying is to our sister companies, the solution is not just limited to aviation. There are countries, as you correctly say, wherein rail is going to be crucial. There are other countries wherein roads are going to be crucial. So whatever holistic solution we can offer, we certainly encourage our sister companies to come along with us because we believe that it is better for those countries if we offer a holistic solution. And we are very clear in the solutions that we provide are fit for purpose.
Okay. The appetite from the private sector, who's normally quite risk averse, particularly when you're talking about large sums of capital in cases of infrastructure, what has been their attitude toward AXA's expansion plans? Are people keen, or are you not getting the kind of responses and therefore kind of have to go to your development finance institutions?
Quite honestly, we haven't tapped into the private sector funding.
Is that out of choice, or it's just because this is not something that they generally get involved in because it's too risky and it's too, you have to put up too much cash right from the get-go?
I think we haven't tested those assumptions, but we initially were going to offer a technical solution. When the issue then became funding, it happened by coincidence, actually, that we started a discussion with the DBSA,
Right.
who also have a mandate for infrastructure development on the continent. And so we then said, well, if that is your mandate, then why don't we club together a holistic solution? Because I think our mandate, as indicated by our minister, is to offer whatever technical assistance we can to improve the transport reliability on the continent.
Now, earlier we spoke a little bit about the importance of seamlessness on airports, that's one of the big issues and one of the things that AXA brings to the table. Now, in the globe that we're living today, given your threats of violence from all kinds of quarters, how big an issue is security for AXA, and what is it about how you do your management of airports that puts you in a space where you are able to deal with the kinds of threats that we're seeing on airports? The one thing that really distinguishes one airport from the other globally is the kind of security arrangements that passengers obviously have to go through.
As a company, as an airports company, we are fully responsible for aviation security. And that largely is the screening of passengers and goods from a non-restricted area into a restricted area. There are other elements of security, such as terrorism.
Right.
And we have to work very closely with the law enforcement agencies. There are issues such as crime that have plagued us
in fact, I was reading up on AXA when you were at the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee. Many of the MPs raised the question of baggage that gets stolen. Many of them having had the experience of being, their bags going missing. How do you ensure that, those things don't become a perennial problem, as it did at some point at OR Tambo?
The challenge with baggage has really been for us to work together as a community. When you travel, you check in your airline, you check in your baggage into an airline. At no point do you give it to AXA. But if something has happened to your bag, it has happened at OR Tambo, it has happened at Cape Town. And by default, AXA's name is tarnished, or AXA's reputation is brought into question. So we have to work with the luggage handling companies, the airlines, the security companies, to ensure that the safety of baggage is ensured from check-in to the time you pick it up on the baggage belt. And that's not to say we don't screen the bags. We obviously screen those bags. But, there was an instance recently, I think it was in France, it may have been Italy, wherein upwards of 32 people were arrested for an organized baggage syndicate. It has also recently happened in other parts of the world. So it is a global problem, but I think what it has taught us is the need for us to move away from pointing fingers and actually solving the problem. It's similar to, if I can give you the example, it's similar to crime.
Right.
If your bag is stolen out of the car park, there was a crime that happened at OR Tambo, AXA, what are you doing about it? By default, we work very, very closely with the police to ensure that the criminal element is dealt with and dealt with effectively.
Let's talk about the question of terrorism, because that is a very big feature of global security and airports, of course, and aviation. What has been AXA's experience in terms of handling this, and are you satisfied that in the way you've handled it, you haven't racially profiled people, as some, travelers sometimes comment, especially if they go to countries such as America?
No, we don't do racial profiling at all. I think there are standards that are set by the International Civil Aviation Organization on screening, and we adhere to those standards. So there's absolutely no profiling that we do. There's a strict regimen that we take every passenger through, irregardless of race or color. Yes, when we had events such as 9/11, security was raised to a higher level. But again, it's not solely restricted to our ability as an airports company to respond. We rely on the security services to inform us of imminent threats that we are likely to face. So we We look to the people who monitor such things, such as the Security State Agency and the police. And we work very closely with them in that regard, that if there is a specific threat, we work towards neutralizing it.
How safe are South Africa's airports?
South Africa's airports are very safe. I think that we are frequently audited. In fact, we are annually audited by the South African Civil Aviation Authority. And this year we're going to be audited by the International Civil Aviation Organization, as we have been in times past. And our audits have come out clean. Yes, there were initially problems, but we have attended to those problems. And we try and stay on top of things. By staying on top of things, we work very, very closely with the Civil Aviation Organization. And we also try and understand what other airports are doing, wherein we've had challenges. We visit our counterparts around the world to understand how they have managed a particular problem.
In fact, that leads me to my very next question. What are the best practices that you are learning? Which airports around the world are those that AXA can learn lessons from, that deals with the kind of issues that you deal with on the scale that you have to deal with?
I think it would vary on topic to topic. Like, for instance, let's take customer service. We have learned from an organization called the Airports Council International that does have what is called an airport service quality program that each airport subscribes to, and you're rated on passenger satisfaction levels on an annual basis. And we have received numerous awards. This year, Cape Town is receiving an award, and Uppington is equally receiving an award on customer service. We equally track agencies such as Skytrax that have rated our airports extremely well. So in the element of customer service, we learn from Airports Council International, and the airports that subscribe to the same program that consistently do well. In elements of security or baggage handling, we will go and learn from best practice, and that's what we try and implement in our country.
I want to return to the airports that you've, or rather the deals that you've secured both in Brazil and in India. Are you likely to stay with your stake in India and with Brazil? And how does that tally in terms of your profit margins and also just your ability to then expand into the African continent?
Yes, our intention is to stay. If not, get bigger in those countries. That is a portfolio of our business that we intend to grow. We would like to see more and more revenues being generated from such investments, such as India and Brazil. And where they present themselves on the continent, we will equally chase those, because we believe that that is the way to go. We take a long-term view on these investments, because they're usually anywhere between 20 to 30-year concessions.